Yeah, we all ignored you then, didn't we? Sorry. 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 Happy Chris? Mark, you'll tell me straight away that I'm getting ahead of myself when we're talking about the summer and transfers and all the rest of it, but you'll have seen that the likes of me and other people are already talking about what options you've got in the summer. You're already starting to plan for that, I'm guessing. Have you been told you've got money to spend?
Well, I think, well, like most clubs, that the recruitment process is ongoing from one winter to the next, and we're no different. We're obviously trying to get an insight into what's likely to be available, and you can speak to people supposedly in the know that will tell you one thing, and actually the reality is completely different. But that process is something that you have to go through, and hopefully you get to a place where you've got a chance of getting good players that can enhance the group that you've got, and when you get to that point, obviously there's a financial burden that goes on the owners, so that's when they have to make a decision whether or not we purchase players or not. I've never been given an amount that I've been told that's available. I think it's every transfer we've done, every player that we've brought into the club, it was done on the basis of whether or not it was appropriate and at the right level, and that won't change. I think if we're able to get in front of an outstanding player that shows that they want to join us, and we have the opportunity to buy top level players, then obviously there's a financial cost to that, and then obviously we'll know whether or not there's funds available. But I'm sure there is. I've said this many times that since I've come here, we've never actually been in a position where we've got an opportunity to bring a good player in, but a player that would cost significant amounts of money. So we've not really been in that position. But if we are in the future, I've always felt that if we didn't get in that position, then funds would be made available, because we want to kick on. I think we're really pleased with how the season's panning out. We've still got opportunities to beat last year's total, and I think we're all really pleased with how the season's gone, given that it's been more difficult this year with the injuries that we've had to deal with. So I think if we better our total this year, then I think the feeling in the club would be that we've overachieved in terms of the difficulties that we've had to overcome. So we get more satisfaction from this year's total than arguably from last year, which was a great season for us as well.
Is Franco Di Santo on your radar?
I don't like to talk about individual players, but no.
Thank you for being honest and straight. Appreciate that. That result at the weekend against Southampton, I wonder whether that particularly pleased you, because no winning 4 going into it. Certain people in my position making comments that maybe your players are on the beach, they can finish 8th, 9th or 10th possibly. To be a goal down and come back and win 2-1 against a team of that quality shows the players still really want it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think, well, you've probably seen more of our games than most. I mean, in recent weeks, even though we had a run of games where we had 3 away games and in a 4-game period, and unfortunately we lost 3 of those. But our performances, apart from West Brom away, have been good. So I never saw any decline in our attitude to games. There was still that focus, still that desire to get us maximum points in every game that we played. And I've seen that in the Crystal Palace game. We lost that game and we're still scratching our heads somewhat about that one. But we got back on track at West Ham, away from home, good away point, totally dominated the game, should have won it. And then got back on track against a really strong Southampton team, who there was many occasions where they've gone ahead in the game and actually been beaten. So it was, I think, an indication of where we're at. We're not prepared to let this season peter out, and I think we've showed everybody that that's the case. We're not about to just allow the situation we've worked really hard to get into as a team and as a group miss out on the opportunity that we have to better last year's total. So we're showing good signs, real focus to our work, trained really well today, really pleased with what they produced today. So we're all looking forward to the game tomorrow. We've got an opportunity tomorrow to get the most Premier League wins from a Stoke City team, so that's something that we can achieve tomorrow, so that's a real focus for us.
What about the team news? I've got on my list Stephen Ireland, Peter Odemwingie, Peter Crouch, Mark Muniesa. Can you update us on all of those?
Yeah, Mark Muniesa is not available. Stephen Ireland, Peter Crouch will be available. Peter Odemwingie is likely to be on the bench.
That's great news for him. That's ahead of schedule as well, isn't it?
Well, he's on track. He's doing really well. He's not in a position to start games, but he's training an hour and 30 minutes every day. He's been doing that for over 2 weeks now. So to have him as an option on the bench is not going to compromise him. He won't put him at risk. He's ready. He's done enough work. So as an option for maybe the last 20-25 minutes in the game, I think it's one that we have to pursue. I spoke to him today, obviously ran through my intentions to him, and he obviously responded with a big wide smile, as you would expect, and he's really happy to be back involved again. And it's a big thing for him, big thing for the team and the group as well. We're really pleased that he's back. It was a big injury, one that needs a lot of work to overcome, but he's done that. He's put the work in, and his levels before the injury are obviously what he's been judged on. And almost every one of those levels is the same, or if not better. So he's in a good place. He's confident. So he may well feature tomorrow.
I heard in your post-match interview that you talked about Peter Crouch and the fact that he's going to need an operation in the summer, and you perhaps only get 20 minutes out of him at the moment. Have you got a decision to make there about whether actually, again, no disrespect in saying 8th, 9th or 10th where you can finish and beating the points total, but you're wanting fit for next season? Have you thought about bringing that operation forward?
No, we would do it if it got to the point where Peter couldn't be a player that could have an impact for us. Early in the week after games or when he's taking part, he gets a little bit sore, but come Thursday, Friday, then he gets a lot of work, and that allows him to be available at weekends. If we get to a point where he's struggling on that Thursday and Friday prior to a game, then it would make sense to maybe look to bring that operation forward. But we're not at that point at the moment. He's really very pleased. He's fit to play in his mind, and we would only look at that if Peter felt he couldn't contribute. We certainly have the view that given the games that we have, then he's up for the selection.
Charlie Adam seems to be flying again. Okay, you've got a decision to make there with Stephen Ireland, I guess, being back available again. But Charlie Adam's got 1 year left on his contract, 2 goals in his last 3 games. Would you like to see that contract extended? Would you not like him to see go into the last year of his contract?
Well, we seem to do that as a club. A number of players have gone into their last year, and that's the way we do that.
Would you rather not have it like that?
I don't really have a view. I think it's about making sure that we're strong and the right players are recontracted. Charlie's, as he always will have an impact for me, either starting games or coming off the bench. And he's been great in that regard. I thought he played really well last week as well. Really effective again. So Charlie's situation is no different from any other number of players that have been in the last year of their contract, and it just takes a little bit of time, and I'm sure we'll get to a point where everybody's happy.
The only negative I can see at the moment is conceding too many goals from set pieces. Worst record in the Premier League for that. Is that, there's 2 ways of looking at that, and I wonder whether you say, look, that's an inevitable consequence about the transformation we've had and the different styles of play, the different players we've been trying to bring in, or whether you think that's a concern that you're conceding that many goals from set pieces.
It wasn't concerned last year. We conceded very few from set players, but people would have you believe that we were poor last year. We were particularly. We haven't been as good this year, but there's been reason behind that. We've missed Ryan Shawcross on occasions. We've had a lot of injuries. in terms of a settled back four, and I think that compromises sometimes your work. But at the end of the day, we need to be better than we have been doing. Everybody is given a role and responsibility on set plays, and it's about making sure that the guy that you're marking doesn't score goals. It's not all about corners, it's about penalties, free kicks as well. We've been hurt by them as well. So when you top them all up, I think people sometimes say, well, set pieces, it's just about corners. It's not actually. It's about penalties, free kicks, as I've said, wide free kicks. So they all tot up, and if you don't defend them correctly, then again can get caught out. But it's something we're aware of. We can be better at it, and we will be. But I think it's just one of those years where we just have been caught out by it. Last year we were fine. This year, for whatever reason, we've been caught out by it.
And lastly, Sunderland are obviously in this big scrap down at the bottom, and they brought a new manager in, Dick Advocaat, who had 9 games. And I just wonder whether, from a manager's perspective, you look at that and you think, do you know, that's a tough ask. I don't think you've been in that situation before, have you? But I wonder whether you can empathise
not
with
with
it.
9 games. I think I had 17 games.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to come in and try and have a positive impact on a group of players that have obviously had a period of struggle. And you've got to get your ideas over quickly, and you've got to find a way of getting positive results. It looked like that was going to happen for them with their performance against Newcastle, which was a great win for them. So you think, well, maybe things are going to improve. But obviously they had a real setback last time out. So they've had a break. So you would think that obviously they've had a time to get out on the training field and look at different things and look at things that maybe will help them to get through these games and make sure that they're still in the Premier League. But it's difficult. We're not oblivious to talk that they've looked at different formations and different systems, and that can help you sometimes. Sometimes it can hinder you because you haven't got enough time to implement them and they're not bedded in. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up tomorrow in terms of personnel and formation, because it's a bit of an unknown. So from our point of view, it's a bit difficult to prepare as well with as much knowledge as we normally have, because there's a little bit of a debate going on in terms of how they're approaching it. But I think it's fair to say that they need to get positive results and quickly. That would suggest maybe that they'd look at a game here and suggest that maybe it's one they can target as a game they can win. They'll certainly have something to say about that, because maybe they will think that we haven't got too much to play for because we're safe, we're in mid-table. But as I've explained already, we've got a lot to still play for. As I said, we trained really well today, and I was really pleased with that. So we're looking forward to it. It's a game we intend to win.
Thank you very much.
Mark, things aren't going too well for Sunderland, and to make it worse, you're turning up with a win rate of 71% against Sunderland. You've played them 14 times and won 10. But it's not going to be a turkey shoot, though, is it, tomorrow?
No, absolutely not. No, they're fighting for their lives. I think you've heard me talk about, not only me, but many managers who talk about the importance of the first goal. I think that's key tomorrow. I think if we are able to score first, I think that will hurt Sunderland obviously clearly, but given their position, I think they need a lot of things to go in their way, just because maybe their confidence at the moment, given their results, is a little bit fragile, so they need things to go for them, possibly more so than has done in previous games. So if we can affect their level of confidence, obviously playing well, starting well, getting in front, then all those factors will impact detrimentally on them. Hopefully that's our plan. We want to start the game well and make sure that we take the points away from them.
You were talking about Charlie Adamman perhaps extending his contract or not, but I think it is kind of strange. He's only started 10 games this season, yet scored 10 league games this season, scored 3 goals, and I think a lot of people felt he was a shoo-in for the Southampton game, particularly for the 2 away games, particularly the goal at Chelsea and this sort of thing. But you played it Stephen on instead. What was you thinking there?
It's a tough call on Charlie. Charlie is one of those players that will have an impact irrespective of what he does. Sometimes it's a case, it's fine margins, and Stephen Ireland will give us a different type of threat than what Charlie did, and on different occasions against different opposition. Sometimes we will look to obviously not to be as open. Obviously we played a top quality team in Southampton last weekend, so I thought maybe starting Stephen and Charlie would be a mistake and leave us a little bit open. So that was the thinking behind it. No reflection on Charlie, to be perfectly honest, but it was just one of those decisions that you have to make sometimes. But as I said after the game, you know with Charlie that even though he doesn't start games, he's fully engaged in the game. He's a good student of the game. He wants to have an understanding of what's required and what's needed. So he's fully engrossed in the game even when he's on the bench. So you know when you bring him on that he's got a good understanding of what's required, given the circumstances of the game, and he's done that time and time again. So that's credit to him, because he doesn't mope around. He doesn't throw his toys out the pram. He's very much a team player, and he wants the team to do well, irrespective if he starts games or not. So credit to him for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we've just got some guys from Austria. Just like to ask a couple of questions about Marko.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Good afternoon. Thanks for listening to us. You're doing a big feature on Marko, which you do not know. We did a lot of research so far, talked to a lot of guys, and we have a few questions. Everyone we talked to from the national team and coaches and so on says Marko performs much better on an international level today as he did a few years ago. He does more defensive work, he runs better. What did you do to make him better? Because everyone says he's gotten better since he arrived in Stoke.
I think he's matured as a player. I think he's got the experience of the Premier League now. He understands the Premier League. He's been playing here 2 years, and there's certain responsibilities that you have to have if you want to be successful in the Premier League. There will always be. I will always give players freedom in the final third to express themselves, and Marko is obviously a creative player and one that wants to affect the game in the final third. But when you give a player like Marko that freedom, there is always a price to pay, and that means defensively there's a responsibility as well. So he has to work hard for the team. On occasions he'll have to trap fullbacks. He'll have to make sure that they don't have an influence on the game, and he's done that really well for the most part. Initially it was probably something that hadn't been demanded of him, but we need that from him. If we don't get that from him, then he knows that he'll go out to the team. So he's a more stable guy now, I think, in terms of his attitude to work. Works really well. He's got more experience, and he's not a child anymore. He's matured as a player and as an individual since he's been here. So we're really pleased with what he's producing.
He seems, or we